What is up, gamers? Enforcer5150 here. Welcome back. Then to all of you that are new, welcome. Anyway, we are back to finally go ahead and benchmark the HP-Omen 15 again, but we're gonna do it on, obviously you can see right here, it's the Division 2. And one thing I got to mention is that this is the i7-8750H with 6 cores. It is boostable up to 4.1, but I only get normally the 3.9 that you see right now. 3914 megahertz is kind of the main thing that we normally get. It has a 1 terabyte regular hard drive, and it has a 256 gigabyte M.2 solid state drive. It also has the GTX 1060 6 gigabytes in it as well. So let's go ahead and get these benchmarks going, and we'll see how we do at 1080p first. And so here we go, and I want to also mention here that we did change the thermal paste that went on here. It was the last video I did before spring break and everything. We put new thermal paste on here. Before it was going really bad. I mean, it was jumping up to 100 Celsius all the time, and it just got worse. When I first started out, it was only about 95, but then after about 3-4 months down, and I started doing more benchmarks and started more gaming, it was always going to 100 Celsius. So I had to make sure I did something about that. So if you want to see that video, I did a teardown and stuff like that. But right now, as you can see, we're on Ultra right now, and we are running 1080p. It's not too bad in these areas. It does drop down. As you can tell, we went to a low of 44, and we have about an average of 54 right now, which is very gameable, especially on a laptop of this size. You know, it's a 15.6 inch screen, so you're not really trying to get this huge, you know, view and stuff like that. Now, I want to also remind you that when I do these laptop gameplay videos or benchmarks, I'm going through the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K, so that I'm taking the equation of the CPU and stuff like that being used for NVIDIA shadow play and OBS, so none of that stuff is a factor here, because it's going through the game capture card first. And yeah, I mean, these aren't too bad of results. Right now we got 51 on average through here, and a score of 4615. We really haven't got too many of those benches yet. I kind of like the way how Division 2 runs its benches. It gives you an entire breakdown of everything in Anyway, I had somebody that told me, I don't remember who it was, if it was in a discussion board or something else, but they told me that DirectX 11 would give you more frames per second, and you definitely would get more performance out of it if you use DirectX 11 over the DirectX 12 ones that you've been benchmarking. Anyway, I cannot agree with that, because DirectX 12 is literally meant to give you more performance. It has a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong, so many problems, and it still has problems. But if you are getting lower performance from DirectX 12 over DirectX 11, I'm just talking about straight performance, not the actual issues and bugs and stuff like that it has. But if you're actually having just performance, like lower frames per second and stuff like that, it's usually because you have a lower end card. I'm not saying that just to everybody, but it depends on your entire system configuration, from your CPU, your RAM, everything else. You could have, an i7 4 series or fourth generation and DDR3, and your DirectX 12 is probably going to run a lot less performance than you would if you were running the DDR4 in newer versions. And like I said, it has so many problems that it's hard to keep up with what's actually a better performance and what's not. DirectX 12 adds a little bit more, visually and stuff like that. It can, and it's easier on developers. Anyway, as we can see here, more performance is not the case with the 10 series. And right now we know we're running DDR4, and we have 8th gen CPU. We also are running 1060 with 6 gigabytes in it. If we were running with the say, what was that, MX 980 or something like that, the 9 series, you might not get the same kind of performance, but you also might have a lot more problems with DirectX 12, like the stuttering and stuff like that. And I had a lot of those problems even on my desktops as new games come out with DirectX 12, and always had that problem. There's a bug where it'll skip every like few seconds on some people's computers, but not others. So whenever they're gonna fix that, who knows? But as you can see here, we're not getting a lot less frames per second. In my opinion, on an average, getting 2 frames per second less is not a big deal. They both look amazing in both configurations. So just take that into consideration, take it as you will. And I pass on that question to you because I really enjoy DirectX 12 over 11, and I do think it does give you a lot more performance. I just wanted to do that video just for that reason. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and jump down to 720p, and we're gonna keep that everything at ultra and see exactly what we'll get on a lower resolution. Remember, this is a 15.6 inch screen. This is not a large screen. So running a 720p versus 1080p, you're not going to get that much of a difference. Well, let's go ahead and give you the opportunity to be the judge of that. In my opinion, with 720p, you're still getting all the details and the bells and whistles to the graphics, but you're expanding it, and it'll get more pixels and stuff like that to actually show everything more lifelike. But when you're on such a small screen, and unless you're like right up there, you're really not going to tell that much of a difference on a 15-inch screen, or 16, I should say. It's closer to 16, I guess. But if you're running it on a large screen, like if you have a monitor that is 1080p and you're running at 720p, you're definitely going to notice those mixing pixels. And if you're running any lower than that, you're definitely going to notice it. It's going to start looking more blotchy. But if you have an actual 720p monitor, which I don't know anybody that does nowadays, it would actually look really nice. But if you have, a 4K screen and you run 720p, it is going to look terrible to you. You're just going to notice every bit of blotchiness and stuff like that because, everything is more enhanced. Even on screens that try to replicate higher resolution and stuff like that. I can't remember what it's called in NVIDIA. I don't use it anymore. I tried it and it wasn't really what I was looking for. Anyway, as you can see in 720p, it looks great. On 15.6 monitor, it looks great. You're getting over 60 frames per second, and you can have a really good gaming experience. Anyway, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and do something a little abnormal. We're seeing that we're running into a 4K screen. We're going to go ahead and run this in 4K and see exactly what we happen. And I really don't know how to explain this to y'all. I really don't. I wish I could, but all of a sudden when I did this, I had like this major freaking, I'm just gonna show you. I mean, seriously, look at this, a freaking light show, man. I don't know what was going on here, but it happened twice. I tried it again. It only happens when I have everything at ultra, and I tried it in 4K. This is not good for your computer. There's no way it could be. But this was like, I was thinking maybe it was a bug in the game or something like that, but this was just terrible. So I gotta have to not recommend putting your laptop at ultra and going into 4K because I like the laser light show, but I think I can deal without it for sure. So we're gonna go ahead and switch everything back to how it's supposed to be, and we'll get back and do this the right way. Alright, so now that we're done with the planetarium laser light show, I think we can get to a little bit of benchmarking here. Jerry Garcia would have been proud. Anyway, as you notice here, we're definitely getting some decent frames per second. I went ahead and put everything at low, and I turned up the graphics detail. I turned up the reflections to medium. But other than that, we're really not getting the highest image quality that we could possibly get and stuff like that in 4K, obviously, or else we get laser light show. I did try some of the settings on PC Gamer, some optimizations and stuff like that, and they used the 1060, but it was a regular 1060. You gotta remember, in some cases the 1060 isn't going to perform the same on the desktop version. But as you can tell here, it's not too bad of frames per second. You're kind of getting what we were getting at 1080p when we had everything at ultra. My personal opinion, I wouldn't play it like this. I would actually go ahead and I would play it at 1080p, everything at ultra, and just 51 frames per second average is pretty decent to play. In the beta, I wasn't able to get over, I think it was like 45 frames per second, so that's pretty good. Anyway, that's all we're going to do for this video. I do apologize for not uploading the last week. I mean, I had some medical issues, and we had, spring break going and end of school, all that other good stuff. But mostly, wife and I were playing Division 2 like mad. I mean, if you want to check my Twitter at Enforcer5151, yeah, I definitely could have done a video in between there, but we were playing it like hell, and we're going to go ahead and do some gameplay videos that we're going to upload, mostly performance and stuff like that on the i9 and the 2700X. I'll try to also make sure I get some benchmark videos of both of those systems as well, and start switching around the cards and stuff like that, see how the configurations actually work. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like button and definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel. Y'all take care and happy gaming.